The boat, a lesson about leaving, to keep it as brief as possible. Married 17 years, 2 kids 15 and 13. Never been hugely close as we're both quite reserved people. A little closed off emotionally. Both been trying to change that. As part of that, my W said that she wanted to start going out more, developing other friendships. We're not really very sociable and don't have many friends as a couple or individually. That was back in early November. She joined a group for people who just wanted to meet a broader social circle in our city. I wanted to give her the space, so never really asked, hello nice guy syndrome. But very quickly she started being very guarded about her phone and spending a lot of time texting. Often checking as soon as she wakes up in the morning. I've also found out that she put a messenger program on her iPhone, so that it bypasses the text function. WhatsApp I think it's called, and set up a secret Gmail account. I also know that she has been in communication with some people, men and women, who she has never mentioned to me. Meantime, she was being more and more closed off to me emotionally. But I figure, like many on here, that I'm giving her the time and space that she needs. I don't know for sure, I don't have access to her phone or her email accounts, but I am pretty convinced that she both is having an IA, and that she has found a group of cheerleading friends who are a lot of fun, great shoulders to cry on, and are probably cheerleaders who are supporting her in liberating herself and going after what she needs. Doing things for herself for once. Etc. Like leaving me. It all came to a head about 2 or 3 weeks ago. She had been out every night that week, except one night when I was out at a church group. At least one of those nights she had dinner with a man, but she claims it was just friendly. All weekend I kept asking her what was wrong, what she was up to, etc. On the Sunday evening I finally said that to many people it would look like she was having an affair, and that I was hurt by all the secrecy. She claimed that that moment made up her mind, and she said she wanted to leave the marriage. She said, don't even try to make me go to counseling, and don't try to win me back. It's over. For about the next 10 days it seemed that was just about all that she could say. Don't try to change my mind like a broken record. Also, very suspicious that I was out to screw her over divorce. She has been to see a lawyer, we are not in the US, and started talking about the mechanics of divorce. Very calm conversation, but she finally realized that what I have been saying all along is true. We don't have a lot besides the house, and she will get a nice place to live for her and the kids, and I will get whatever little is left. Housing is very expensive in our city, so I really will be living in a dump compared to our nice family home. This upset her, and I saw the softer side of her for the first time in months. I comforted her, having been a bit more emotional with each other. I took a chance yesterday and told her that I thought that I could meet her needs. I said I had changed, which I have, partly as a result of this. Finally realized that I am a really good guy with a lot to offer. Whereas before I saw myself as a bit inadequate as a person. She took this warmly and seemed pleased, but 14 hours later she came back from work and just said coldly, I can't do it, and shrugged. Clearly hadn't given it a lot of thought, and I suspect has been asking her cheerleading friends, who all said, don't be weak, don't go back to him. She has been reading Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway over the past few months, and she is a very determined person. I think she feels that she has made a decision and will be letting herself down if she doesn't go through with it. It hasn't been a great marriage to date. We have both been a bit emotionally anal up until now, but given that I now feel really ready to love someone, whether her or someone else, I think it could be a great marriage. Might just be too little too late though. One other thing. The week before our conversation, the week that she went out every night, she got up at 2 a.m. and resigned from her social group and deleted her secret Gmail account, since opened others. I am sure. My guess is that her ended, and that she blamed me. She glimpsed a little fantasy of how wonderful and alive life might be, and it was taken away from her. Reality hurts, and I was the easiest thing to blame. Up until now I have tried to be strong and cheerful but remain open to her. Not so sure now. I am angry and ready to call her on her behavior. I don't want the marriage to end, but have found out how strong I am. One of the things that has allowed me to find my strength is finding out that I really am a great human being. I have a high IQ, but before I always thought of myself as a brain attached to a pretty inadequate human being. Actually, that human being is far from inadequate. My point here is that having found myself and learned to love and appreciate myself, I now have to be true to that guy. Now that guy certainly doesn't take crap. He says, I'm a great guy, and if you want to be with me then you will treat me with the consideration and respect I deserve, and because I am a good guy I will do likewise. I need to think it through, but whatever I do it will be the right thing to do, right for me. I think I'm moving towards the 180, but in my own way. I don't so much see it as a hard-nosed tactic to treat them mean and get them to come crawling back. Perhaps I see it more as taking care of myself and my own needs and trying to cultivate a Zen-like detachment from the thing that brings you suffering. Classic Buddhist teaching. It's hanging on to things that makes you hurt. I have suffered from low-level depression off and on pretty much throughout my adult life. I would never claim to have conquered it, but I have made one hell of a lot of progress. Working on my own. I too was a bit of a distant husband, But, hell, she was a distant wife, too, especially since she decided to create her own secret world a few months ago. The irony for both of us is that having to cope with this crap is what has really turned us around as men and as human beings. I just wish she could see that, but she probably never will, so have to walk away. I think I know who the Ia was with. Don't have a whole lot of evidence except the fact that she had some sort of relationship with a man that she really didn't want me to know about. I'm wondering about contacting his wife. I think he's married, not entirely sure. And seeing what her take on it is. I think the E is over and I'm wondering whether he was busted. The alternative is to confront him directly, but I can't see getting a whole lot out of that. Probably just end up with me ranting like an idiot and him issuing calm denials. I certainly won't get any information out of him and will just show my hand. Oh, and I've put up the emotional walls, not showing any care for her well-being or interest in her life, just calmly talking about domestic arrangements. Hardest thing is actually not letting the anger show through because I'm going through a phase of being very, very angry with her. I was thinking of telling her that when we do eventually tell the children that I will insist that they know everything. That she had relationships with men, probably platonic. But who knows, that she was very careful to keep secret from me and that she kept going on and on about wanting to do something for herself. With me and the kids. Won't do it, because that would be using the kids as pawns in our relationship. But I really feel like it. Perhaps I will insist that they know about it when they are old enough. Just had an email from her asking if we can schedule some time this weekend to talk about things. I don't think she wants to talk about the whole state of our marriage, but is probably concerned that suddenly I'm emotionally withdrawn and her nice cuddly comfort blanket is gone. When I asked to schedule some time to talk about things 2 weeks ago, a week after she dropped her bombshell on me, she went off the deep end and accused me of trying to control her and being manipulative. Very tempting to throw that one in her face, but I know I shouldn't. That is not the cool, calm, 180 man. Wondering how to play it, both responding to email and playing the actual meeting, which I think we will have. My basic line is that we either have a full marriage or we have nothing. I offered to work on our marriage a few days ago and she threw it back in my face, so she has voted for nothing. She doesn't get to pick and choose the bit she likes, like the nice sap who listens to her moan for 2 hours about how bad it is at her workplace and discard the rest. I'm worth more than that and I will not be disrespected in that way. I'm now trying to approach this like a business negotiation, and one in which I am in a strong position, because although she has said that she wants to end things, I too am willing to walk away. In those circumstances in business, if the other side requested a meeting, I wouldn't necessarily refuse to meet them, but, as you rightly say, I would certainly meet them on my terms. In business, being overly aggressive and generally overplaying your hand can look as weak and insecure as caving in. I'm worried about coming across like that. If I suddenly discover something I urgently need to do on Sunday, then it will be pretty clear that I have invented something as an excuse not to meet. And that could look weak, a poor bluff, a busted flush. Possibly better to play it along the lines, I'll get around to our discussion when I'm ready, and keep her waiting rather than fixing a time, and then insisting that we meet where I want to meet outside the house, or insisting that we discuss things I want to discuss. Before I let her say what she wants to say, which she now says are D issues, she wants to discuss the process that she has already set in motion and to make it as amicable as possible. Amicable equals you want my cooperation. A point to ponder. I need to think about all of this, and thanks again for the input, but my gut instincts are 1. To be me, not to try to play some macho character who throws his weight around. The 180 only works if it's totally genuine. If you fake it and try to play a character you are not, she will spot it a mile away and it will just look like a pretty pathetic bit of posturing. 2. To put my business head on and be the person I am at work, since I know I can pull that off fairly easily. I can stop myself from getting emotional and I can focus on putting what I want at the top of the agenda, but I have to work out exactly what that is first. Another question. I really want to know what happened with the IA guys. Am I right in thinking that it would be a bad idea to bring this up and make talking about this my condition for talking about what she wants to talk about? Although I really want to know, it seems needy and goes against the 180 philosophy of building yourself a new future, and I am sure that she will never admit to it unless confronted with undeniable evidence. I was out last night and everyone was in bed when I got home. She was sick this morning, so I start getting kids ready, etc. Then she says we need to talk. I stonewall and walk away, but she says that we need to talk about the kids because they have worked it out. I put off the conversation several more times, but she follows me around the house. Finally end up having the conversation, or 2 or 3 separate disjointed conversations as I keep walking away. But it's about the welfare of my kids, so I find it impossible to just stonewall completely. Probably a mistake, particularly to engage emotionally. But we all make mistakes. Anyway, I think she wants me to make it nice and easy for her. To tell the kids together that sometimes adults just don't get on, or some hogwash like that. I told her that they would not buy this, and that she needed to explain to them 2 things. First, why she had chosen to leave the marriage and break up the family, and second, why she was unwilling to try to make it work. I asked her flat out what she was going to say to the kids when they asked her why she wasn't willing to give it another shot. She said she didn't have an answer. I told her she needed one. She then angrily said that I wanted to shoot her down in front of the kids. I said that I had no intention of doing that, but that nor would I be held accountable for her decisions. She shot back that she wouldn't take all the blame for our marriage going wrong. Translation: she still doesn't accept any of the blame. In the fog, it's all my fault. At one point I also pointed out that she wasn't so concerned about the kids when she was out every night of the week and they were asking where she was, or when she kept saying that she was tired of putting me and the kids first and needed to do something for herself. I know I shouldn't have engaged emotionally, but it felt good. Whilst I was getting things off my chest, I also brought up the E in a roundabout way. I said that when a wife was having relationships with people that she was desperate for her husband to know nothing about, then something was wrong. She didn't deny it and only reacted when I said, "That's called an emotional affair." Look it up. This was probably a huge tactical mistake, but I think it may have actually helped me begin to untangle emotionally. I've said the things I needed to say. I stopped being a doormat. I called her on her bad behavior. I do feel a bit lighter and as if I can view her in a slightly more detached way. Funnily enough, I can empathize with where she is emotionally, but without wanting either to hold her and make things better or to turn the screw. At least that's how I feel right this second, and I think in some ways that's the best 180 position of all if I can maintain it. Decent, concerned, as one human to another. No more than that, and yet not emotionally invested in her outcome. That's for her. I'm suddenly much less curious about the suspected EA, although I might just do a little bit more digging just so I have an ace up my sleeve if I need it. Life seems determined to dump everything it can on me, not content with taking away my wife, my family, and the majority of my possessions. It now wants to take away my health. Don't want to go into too many details here, but let's just say that I need to have a number of very frightening procedures which may or may not work. If they don't work, it could have a significant and permanent impact on my day-to-day life. I walked out of the hospital yesterday with tears streaming down my face. Thank God it was dark, but I wasn't saying why me. I was saying to whoever is out there, okay, if this is the way you want it, then bring it on. I stand alone and I fight. Whatever more you want to throw at me, do your worst. I was literally this demented guy striding down the road with big heavy tears rolling down my cheeks, jaw tightly clenched, saying aloud, "I will not be defeated." People were scattering and looking for the hidden camera. That sort of defiant high can't last forever, of course, but at least this morning I still feel determined. I have to go back to the hospital later on. I'm scared, very scared, but I'm going to face it head on. And alone, just me against the world. I did eventually tell the STBXW more or less what was happening, but I told her that this was part of my new life and that I was facing it alone. On my terms. I only told her because I remembered that one of the 180 principles is not to do anything to push her away, and shutting her out completely was doing that. Hope that's right. Meanwhile, she has been sick and I have been looking after her like any decent human being would, making food and cups of tea. But trying to do it in a very detached way. Like a professional nurse who does not engage emotionally with the patient. Otherwise, been trying to ignore her and minimize contact. It feels strange, more as if I'm acting like a sulky teenager than a strong man who doesn't need her. But will persevere. Anyone else feel similar? What is life going to throw at me next? Not much more left to take from me apart from life itself. Although I am left with me. My honor, dignity, strength, and everything else that I am. This 180 stuff is hard to do. I feel either cruel or like a bit of a crap, but I guess that is the nice guy conditioning. Yesterday, after I came back from the hospital, she wanted to know all about my condition and treatment. I just said firmly but politely, "Thank you for your concern, but this is something I have to deal with on my own." At one point she made overtures, saying that she hadn't actually started the legal process. Isa wanted to jump all over that, but I ignored it. I felt like I was throwing away the only chance I would ever get to reconcile, but I held firm. It's her birthday today. Have done nothing, no card, no happy birthday. Basically, just ignoring her. She's got all defensive and put the barriers up again, which again makes me feel worried that I have missed the boat. She really doesn't find it easy to reach out and say love me. She finds it much easier to sit there brooding behind her barriers. That's how much of our marriage was, her behind her barriers and me behind mine. I think I am going to have to be the one to reach out and offer her love, but I don't think that the time for that is yet. Although I'm still worried that I have missed my chance. Meanwhile, our 15-year-old daughter is completely miserable and won't eat. It's heartbreaking seeing her in pain. Oh, and got some legal documents in the mail today. Nothing major, just some things to clarify home ownership and ensure that she has a claim. But still, nice. This has been the whole history of our marriage. Both of us sitting behind emotional barriers, feeling hurt, bitter. Not talking things out. Not being honest about our feelings. Making assumptions about what the other is thinking. You get the picture. I'm not that guy anymore. I have a much bigger heart and I am not afraid to get out from behind my barrier. So, your question is why I should be the one to do that, when she has brought all of this upon herself, us. The answer, in a nutshell, is because I can and she can't. Does that mean that she gets off scot-free and doesn't have to make any effort or any changes? No. I've got my list of demands for us to get back together. And one of those is being much more emotionally open and honest, putting those barriers down forever. But that will take time, and at the moment she can't do that. I just don't want to get to a point where she realizes her mistake. The fog has lifted. She is ready and willing to change and to put effort into the relationship going forward. Knows that she is in a deep, deep hole of her own making, but is just too damn emotionally constipated to reach out and ask for help and promise to make the changes that she is willing to make. It would just be a real shame if that happened. But of course, she needs to reach that point. She needs to stop blame shifting. She needs to stop being angry at me for the situation that she created. She needs to realize that her grass is always greener fantasy of a free and simple single life is baloney. And most of all, the 180 has to show her that there is a guy right in front of her that she could have a good long-term relationship with. And, of course, if she doesn't get there, then this whole discussion is academic. I'm not going to reach out of pity or desperation. I'm only going to do it if I see a real sign that she regrets what she has done and is prepared to work at the marriage. And it's a one-time thing. Here is an open door to say what you want to say to me. If you're not ready to make the right commitment or aren't sincere, then the door closes forever. That all makes sense to me. But does it smack of self-justification to you? Am I kidding myself? I am prepared to walk away, but if it can work, I want it to work. For the sake of the kids, if nothing else. She's got a crazy anger on her today, trying to pretend that everything is going just fine by going around the house singing, etc. But I know her too well. She had a tough upbringing, very neglectful, and a lot of anger inside her. I would always try to appease it before. Now she owns it, and I feel like I am dealing with a very angry teenager. I feel empathy but detachment, like a counselor or a teacher. Only thing to do is to wait for the anger to subside, if it ever does. But it certainly isn't going to get to me, and I am not going to engage with it. Kids have noticed too and have started to react against her. Sad to see, but what can I do? I have changed already. I took a good long look at myself and found that I liked what I saw. I found value in myself that I never knew was there. Was always convinced that I wasn't a man of character, if you know what I mean, and was second best. Actually, I've found that I am a man of character, and integrity, and love. I'm a great guy. I am hoping that she will want me and value me for all of this. But that's beyond my control. If she doesn't want me or won't value me, then someone else will. Ball is in her court, but not for too long. She's just complained that I didn't say happy birthday to her yesterday. Talk about wanting to have your cake and eat it. She thinks she can drop the D-bomb and life just goes on as normal, or rather on her terms. Just had another argument about the kids. She wants to tell the kids, but she wants to give them some old soft soap about mom and dad not getting on and both deserving to be happy. I'm telling her that this won't wash, and when they ask us to give it another try, as they inevitably will, then she is going to have to explain why she took the decision to break up the family and why she is not prepared to give it another try. Of course, she angrily accuses me of pushing my own agenda and of trying to make her look bad in front of the kids, and doing all this to try to punish her to the detriment of the kids. The kids already realize that something is up. They are angry at her, far more so than me, so telling them that we aren't getting on ain't exactly going to be news to them. Of course, I knew this wasn't a 180 thing to do, but we have to discuss the kids at some point. I did walk away and tell her that we could discuss it when she was a bit less angry. When she said, "So none of this is your fault, eh?" I did say that I certainly bear my share of the responsibility for marital mistakes, but that I had not made the decision to end it. That is hers alone, and she has to own it and be accountable for it. While I was at it, I said again that I found it inappropriate and a breach of trust for her to have had secret relationships with other men. I did not say anything more than that, did not use the affair word, or EA. But she didn't argue. She knows I know, and that is enough. She is a rather emotionally damaged individual, neglectful upbringing, and I don't think she actually knows how to love other people. She doesn't love herself enough for that. Instead, she just sits behind a barrier and waits for other people to come to her emotionally. And when they don't, as I didn't always, during our marriage, but clearly, she thought that was bringing her love, she gets incredibly bitter. That bitterness is capable of incredible cruelty when it really cranks up. It certainly doesn't return love easily or show generosity or forgiveness. This woman bears grudges for decades. It is pure neediness that doesn't know any other way to behave but to have a desperate tantrum when it doesn't get what it craves. It doesn't understand that you have to love to get love. I was afraid of that anger, that fear, and throughout our marriage I would appease it. I always felt second best, a compromise, and as if I had to keep her happy so that she would keep me. I sat behind an emotional barrier, a bit like her, because I didn't think that my love was good enough for anyone. But no more. I have found the value in myself, I have a great capacity to love, and my love is a valuable commodity. I reserve it for those who deserve it. She may, or she may not, but she is rapidly moving towards the undeserving category. These things just take time. Just had the letter from her lawyers. She wants me to admit unreasonable behavior so that it can go through as quickly as possible. That's the way things are typically done in the UK if the divorce is amicable. The piece of crap pencil-neck lawyer is also lecturing me about how we should tell our kids. He claims, based on what my wife is saying, that I want us to tell the kids that it's all her fault. That's not what I said at all. I said that she should be accountable for her decisions. Like, be honest enough to tell her own children that she has decided to walk away from the marriage and that she was unwilling to make any attempts at reconciliation. I was expecting it, but seeing it in black and white, gut-wrenching. For my asset, I think I'm screwed. We have a nice house in West London, from the days when I made decent money. Before the recession, don't have a lot else besides the house. I think what's going to happen is that she will get a 3-bedroom flat in this same, very expensive area so that the kids can be near their schools. I will get whatever is left. Concerned that the court will turn around and say that whatever I end up with is not a suitable home for the children, so my access rights will be curtailed. She's deep in the fog, living in a typical walk-away wife fantasy land, where being on her own, being free to love again is going to be some sort of magic nirvana. No doubt there will be unicorns, too. More than anything else, I just want to shake her and say we've not been very happy because neither of us was able to risk our emotion and put ourselves on the line. We hid from each other and were incredibly defensive. I have changed, but you haven't. So, what makes you think that next time will be different for you? Who does she think she is? Some free spirit who deserves to be free and deserves to be loved, even if that means shantying all over everyone else, including her own children whose lives will be irretrievably affected. She told me she knows I love her, but still she needs to go off to be loved. I asked when and where she put in the effort to try to fix things if they were going so badly wrong. There were 2 of us in the marriage and we were jointly responsible for its health. She just shrugged and said that she didn't bother to try to fix anything. She just gave up. She can't have the house because that's pretty much all there is in terms of liquid assets. So, the house will be sold and we'll see how the proceeds get split. It's the only home my kids have ever known, so it'll be a huge wrench for them. But I would rather leave my house to my kids when I've done with it, and not be thrown out of it by a divorce court and run the risk that my STBXW decides to leave some or all of the sale proceeds to, say, a new husband and or his kids. My problem with her, it's about honesty with kids who are old enough to have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. It's also about people taking responsibility for their decision and their action and not seeking to hide behind some sometimes adults don't get on bullshit tea. The bottom line is that I am not going to lie to my kids. I am not going to pretend that their world is about to be ripped apart due to a mutual decision. It wasn't a mutual decision. It was her decision, and she needs to explain to the kids how and why she took that decision. Again, this is not to punish her, it is about honesty and accountability. Likewise, when the kids ask us why we won't try to reconcile, I am not going to lie and say that I am not willing to try that, because I am. She is going to have to be honest and to explain to them why she is unwilling to try. If we were dealing with 5-year-old, it would be different. Then the sometimes adults don't get online would work. But teenagers are going to want to understand exactly who decided what and why. I am not going to lie just to make the conversation more comfortable for her. And even if I did lie, this is not going to be a one-time only conversation. The kids are going to be asking questions for months to come, and it is inconceivable that the truth won't come out. So, lying is pointless as well as wrong and something that will compromise my relationship with my kids. The kids I am not likely to be living with for that much longer, but nor am I going to dump all over her and demonize her. It's her decision to explain, and once she has finished explaining, I will support her right to make that decision and won't discuss what I think of that decision. I will tell my kids that both their parents love them, that this has nothing to do with them. Although in my experience kids always blame themselves for a divorce, that we will work together to build a good future for them and that they do not have to choose sides. I will also tell that it's okay for them to be angry or upset. As for bitterness, I have already heard my wife dropping some anti-men never get married and don't trust men propaganda on my 15-year-old daughter. Nothing too heavy, just 1 or 2 comments that I'm aware of, but it's not right. If my kids are happy with the sometimes adults don't get on crap, then we can leave it there. But I can tell you here and now they won't be. They'll want to know why their world is about to be turned upside down. Why they have to leave the only home they have ever known. Why can't their parents just fix things up? Why have they been catapulted into this world of uncertainty? They'll want to know who is responsible. They will desperately try to see if they can make a difference by bringing us back together again. When one of us has upset the other in the past, they are quick to text us to tell us exactly what they think and are remarkably honest and even-handed about it. I actually think that treating the kids like adults and letting them know what is going on and answering all of their questions fairly and honestly will help them cope with it and move on far better than spinning them a line because having the honest conversation is too difficult for the adults in the room. So, if you were in my shoes, and your kids came to you and said, "Why can't you get back together with mom, or at least give it a try?" what would you say? There are basically 3 ways to reply to that question. 1. Don't give a straight answer. These things are difficult. 2. Lie. Say you have mutually decided that it just isn't going to work out when that's not actually what you think. 3. Tell the truth. Whilst you respect their mother and her decision, it was her decision to leave and she does not think thing can be repaired. I would also add that their mother is a good person and made an honest decision based on what she thought was best. I honestly think that 3 is the healthiest answer for everyone. But I would be interested in people's opinion. My comment, part 2 coming tomorrow morning. Hope you guys like these so far. What would you do if you were OP? Comment down and I will prepare the next one after a mini break.